take over and introduce himself. Awesome. Ashutosh?
Yeah, hi guys. Can you hear me? Yeah. Hi guys, Ashutosh here. So I'll be helping out Ashwini with and you all with doubts on this session. So whatever are your doubts, please post it on the chat and keep this session interactive as possible. And okay, then I think we are ready to go. Or maybe we can wait for say 2-3 minutes for people to join.
Okay, so yeah, we can wait for, and just to let you know, I'll be looking here and talking, so don't mind that because this screen will be presenting. Okay, awesome. So I hope you can see my screen. Can anyone confirm? Okay, awesome. Thank you. Cool. So it's 2:05. We'll wait till 2:07 just in case anyone else wants to join, and then we'll be starting. Yeah, again, sorry for making you wait so long, but yeah, we want people to join and no one should be missed. So yeah. And Ashutosh, can you also confirm if you're able to see the presentation only?
Yeah, we can. Yes.
Okay, awesome, great. So in the meantime, can you guys tell me which colleges are you from? We have 1 minute for that. So yeah, just type it out on the chat. IIT Madras, great. Oh, IIT Madras, nice. Okay. Nice.
Okay, so we have people from IITs, people from CET Kerala, I see here. Okay.
Okay, cool. So I think we have, we have to start now. Okay, so I'll be starting with the Python 101 session. So before I start, this session is for everyone. People from all the backgrounds are free to learn because this is an intro session. What you will be getting out of this session is you will be getting an introduction to programming. You will be understanding how we write Python programs and how we build things using Python, the scope of Python, where can we go with Python, basic data types, variables, things like that. And at the end, I'll also be sharing a few tips on how you can get into any product-based companies, specifically Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and things like that. Cool. So about me, again, I'm a software development engineer at Amazon. I work in the Alexa and Amazon Pay team, and I've been basically working to collaborate the two using payments, payments using Alexa. So if you ever told Alexa to, hey, Alexa, pay my bill, so that's where I'm working. So yeah, without any further ado, let's move ahead. So can anyone tell me what Python is? I mean, just random guesses, type it out in chat. I know you can see the screen, but according to you. So
Guys, please keep this as interactive as possible. Like there is no right or wrong answer for anything. You can just share your thoughts on what do you think about Python or your first experience with Python or anything like that. If
okay,
someone wants to.
and how many of you have never coded before? Can you just type yes, no? If you have coded before, type yes. If you have never coded before, type no. Okay. Cool. Nice.
Yeah. So there are people with.
Okay. Anyone with a no? Cool. No problem. So yeah, again, Python is an interpreted language. It's an object-oriented language. It's a high-level language, and it has dynamic semantics. So for the beginners who have never coded before, a programming language is anything that helps you talk to computers. Okay. Since this is the intro session, I'll be keeping it for beginners. If you have any questions, you can obviously ask in the chat. So what do I mean by interpreted? So yeah, again, it was created by Guido van Rossum, and it is created far back in 1991 when Java and everything else was coming up. So it's not a new language; it's a pretty old language. So first of all, it's an interpreted language. So anyone who knows the meaning of interpreted, you can just type it out, and I'll be like going through it again. So an interpreted language is a type of programming language, for which there is an interpreter which runs over a virtual machine, and the interpreter executes the code line by line and then converts it to low-level language. So Python is more of a wrapper of a low-level language, which we will not be going into details, but yeah, you can say that. It's again object-oriented, which means it's a programming language that organizes design of softwares around data and objects. Okay, rather than functional logic. So when I say object oriented, I mean it can be divided into classes and objects. What I mean by classes and objects is, suppose you have a car, and a car is a class, and you can have subclasses of that. You can have objects from that car. So one of the object would be Tesla car, another object would be Maruti car, so things like that. So object oriented, it's high level. It's pretty common. High level is a pretty common term, which means you don't have to write assembly language for the code. And by dynamic semantics, I mean that dynamic objects are instances of values which are contained into the code, and they can exist at runtime. So when I say dynamic semantics, I mean the code which we write exists at runtime. So when you write a particular function, and you write other lines of code below that, so the other lines of code are not yet available at runtime while the executor is at the function. So it goes line by line. So yeah, don't worry about it
So
yet.
yeah. So guys, the major takeaway from this slide, if I do it in one line, it would be like, for any other language, say Java, C++, we generally compile the file, right? But for
Yeah.
Python, the compilation is line by line. So yeah, that is what the major takeaway would be from this slide. Yeah, I think you should continue.
Okay, awesome. So moving on, why Python? Why should we learn Python? Again, so it has, first of all, a large community support. It's very easy to learn, and it is very popular. So, researchers and scientists who wanted to come up with solutions really quick use this language because it's very easy to learn. You don't have to go through the details of everything like we go through in Java and C++ pointers and stuff like that. So yeah, it's very easy to learn. Anyone can learn Python in around a week. I would say, if you are at the correct pace, if you keep practicing, it will not take more than a week to learn the basics of Python. And in this intro session, I will try to give you as much insight as possible. So yeah, it's used in data science, it's used in scripting and automation, it's used in big data, it's used in testing, it's used in computer graphics, artificial intelligence, web development. And you can easily extend Python. You can also use Python to execute other code like C++. So one question that I would have here is, since Python is too good, as we can see here, it's simple, easy. So why do we still use other languages like C++, Java, and Perl, Ruby? Why do we still use other languages when Python is available and freely available? So why?
Any of you who has already like done something, a project or a report or anything like that on any of these things which Python, like we mentioned on the slide, can come up and post it on the chat or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, there are no right or wrong answers. We just want to get your views on what you think, and we just want to clarify it. So yeah, why Python, why C++, Java and everything is still used even when we have Python, and it's used extensively in so many things. Okay, yeah, maybe it is slower than C++. Yes, you're right.
Correct.
Python is slower than C++. Any other reason? Simple commands. Yes, Python has simple commands, but my question is, why do we still use programming languages like Java and others? Libraries, not really. So Python has a lot of libraries, true, but the same libraries are also available in other programming languages. It's difficult to write, but it's available. Yes, so
Correct.
that's a
That's
good
a very
answer.
good point.
Depends on programmers, and depends on the use case. So if I want to manipulate a machine level code, I would or a memory location, I would rather go for C++ or C rather than Python, because we can't do it with Python. Python is slow because of dynamic semantics. What happens is when we execute, so Python has to think about a lot of things going on, and it has to convert it to a code which is readable by the machine. And then at the back end, it's all simple C++ running, and yeah, that's the hard truth. But yeah, going forward, so I think it's very clear why Python is used. It's easy to learn. There are a lot of things you can do for prototyping. We generally use Python for basically prototyping. If something works, build quickly, learn about it, and then implement it in C++ or Java in case you need efficient performance. Okay, moving forward. So before we get started, I want you to go to this link, which is https repl.it/languages/python3. So just go to this link, and you will have an interpreter with you. So once you are there, just let me know why are we sharing this, because we want you to code together. We don't want this to be all PowerPoint and things like that. So we want you to go with us, and you can just go to this link. You will get something like this. You can just start writing. Okay. So once all of you are there, just yeah, thank you Ashutosh for posting it. Once all of you are there, just give a heads up in the chat if we can continue forward. I'll wait for people for 2 minutes to open this link. Ashutosh has already pasted the link. You can copy and paste it in your browser.
Guys, I think I missed a semicolon there, so please take care of that. The link is the same. Put a semicolon after, sorry, a colon after the HTTPS thing.
Cool, no problem. So, yeah, so you can, I've pasted the link again just in case you can, directly open it. And please, there are a few people waiting, and there are 43 people, and only 2 yeses have come. So please let us know when we are good to go. Awesome. Cool.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. So, let's start with the first hello world program for those who have never coded before. So Python is simple. For printing out something in Python, you just have to say print, and you have to enclose it in these parentheses. You have to put colons, and you have to say hello world. So yeah, that's what new programmers do. We say hello to the world, and that's what we'll be doing again, saying hello to the
Yeah,
world.
so guys, a point here is for those who have been using Python, say from past, earlier have used Python, they might have noticed that there is a syntactical difference between the code written for Python 3 and Python 2. So as you see here, you place the brackets near the print function here to print anything in Python 3, but that changes in Python 2 because you don't put brackets there. So that's the main difference between those two compilation versions and all. Yeah, that we need to keep
Yeah.
in mind.
So, yeah, right. So if you have used earlier versions of Python, you would not need this parentheses open close, but in newer versions of Python, which is Python 3, you would need this. Okay, going ahead. So if this is clear to everyone and everyone has said hello to the world, we are going to move forward and look at the data types that are available. So what are data types and why do we need data types? So yeah, I mean, there are a lot of different types of data, right? So if you're typing yes, that yes is a string. If you are performing math operations, you perform it on numbers, which is 2 plus 3. If you have to say whether something is true or not, true or false, you can use Boolean. So things like that. So we'll be going over it one by one, but I'm just giving you an overview of it. So yeah, first of all, we have this numeric data type, which can be of type integer, float, and this complex number is basically a class in Python. If for those who already know Python, if you define x as a complex number, then you can do x dot real and x dot imaginary. But we're not going there, so don't worry about it. So focus on integer and float. So let me go and define a variable for you. You can do it with me. So this is how we write a comment. We put a hashtag and we write a comment like this, which means that this code will not be executed, and this is for the programmer. Okay, so I say I'm a comment. Cool. So comments are useful when you forget your code about a month or so and you don't know what you have done. So this is useful. So let's define a variable, integer variable. Let me say 4. So that's how simple it is in Python to define a variable. X equals 4 and y equals 6. Again, you can use any number of any alphabetical digits to store the value except the keywords. So what are a keyword? What is a keyword? So keyword is a set of set of characters or string already stored for the Python function. For example, print cannot be defined as a variable because it is a keyword. For cannot be defined as a variable because it is a keyword. While cannot be defined as a variable since it is a keyword. So we are not going to remember each and every keyword, but what Python does, it changes the color so that we have a hint of, okay, this is a keyword and we cannot use it. And while you program, you will get a hang of what are keywords and what are variables and what can be used and what cannot be used. Cool. Going ahead, this is an integer, as simple as that. Next comes float. So the only difference between integer and float is that for the float, we have decimal values at the end, which means we can say 4.2, we can say b equals 6.8 or c equals 9.8. Okay, so this is the only difference between integer and float. Obviously it carries different amounts of memory, but yeah, we will go there in a while. But this is basically what an integer is. This is basically what a float is. We're not going to complex numbers because again, it's easy to define. You can just say x is equal to complex of something 4, 4 plus something. So we're not going there yet because this is not a session for that. And next is Boolean. Okay, so Boolean basically means true or false. Okay, true or false. We'll be talking about how these values are stored in memory in a while, so don't worry about it. We are going to tell you. I'm going to tell you all the variables and data types that are available, and then we will go ahead. So this ABC can be anything you can think of. You can also say just say Ashwani is equal to hello. This is a string variable, but yeah, I mean you can give it any name you want. Okay, you can say variable name equal to anything, but in programming it's good to say define variables that are meaningful. For example, I'm defining a car and I would say Maruti. Okay, or car 2, I would say Tesla, things like that. Okay. So the variable names should be related to what the variable is. Next comes Boolean. So if, okay, sorry, let's not go there yet. So let me say, has uh, has money equal to true. Okay, something like that. Like you can name any variable, or is Corona over? So you pretty know. I mean, it's not over yet. So we can define a value as false. So something like that. Okay. Any questions still here? If this is clear, we'll go forward.
Please feel free to ask the question also.
Yeah, like just shoot questions at us. That's why we have Ashutosh also. So clear, awesome. Case sensitive. Case sensitive. No. So this is not case sensitive. So the left side of it is something that can be anything, but it is a good practice to have it in lowercase, unless required. Unless this is something like
Also,
a.
if you mean the true and false, so those are the keywords. So you have to use it like that. So capital
Yeah.
T, R, U, E, and like that. Otherwise, if you define a variable, it doesn't really matter that you use it a combination or anything like that. Yeah.
So when we are defining something like a constant, it's good to have it in a full uppercase. But since you asked, this is not where we are going yet, because this is more of a best practice thing rather than a coding thing. So yeah, this is case sensitive, as he has already mentioned. So yeah, going forward, I think this is clear for everyone. So going forward to how these values. Yeah, I missed string, right? Sorry. Pardon that. That is what REPL is doing. Okay. So string. So let me say name, and I will say Ashwani, and I would say code, and I would say coding pros, something like that. .in. So this is basically a string. Okay. So you can define a variable, and you are assigning a string value to this variable name. Okay, so the string is enclosed in double quotes, and you can say anything like, can you just give case sensitive? I'm just taking uh, variables case sensitive, something like that. Okay, house. This is actually not case sensitive, but you get the point, right? You can mention anything. You can add white spaces in between. This is basically a string. Okay. Boston, since this makes more sense. Cool. Strings are clear, and so every string is made up of characters, which means alphabet's first character is equal to A. So there is really no difference between a string and a character by the way it's defined in Python. But just to be more clear about it, you can also define string like country India, for example. So you can also define strings like that, but as a best practice, what we do is we use single quotes for characters, which is A, I, D, N, or I. So each character, when you basically when you combine characters, you make a string. I hope that is clear, right? Let me know if you have any questions on this. You can define string like this, and you can also define string like this. So if you want to suppose say define a multi-line string, can do it like this.
Or a single.
Okay, so this we use while writing down what the function is doing. So this is more of a programming practice. Again, we're not going into details, but just to get an overview, this is how we define string. This is how we define a character. You can also define characters like this. And let me just try and print one of these. Okay, let me just say alphabet's first character, and when I run this code, I get A. So let me just comment this hello world out. Oops, sorry. Okay, so when I print alphabet's first character, I get a A. Okay, so similarly, if I want to print code, I can say run and it says codingpros.in. Okay, now if I want to print name, I can say print name and it will just print out my name. We could have also done this. Okay, it would give me the same result. This would also give me the same result, but we can also store it in a variable. So why do we need a variable when we can print it like this? Ashutosh will answer that. So yeah, Ashutosh,
Yeah,
you can
so,
take over. Why do we?
can you guys hear me?
Yeah, so people are not asking, but they might have a question
That's
that,
what I
when we
was just
can print
asking
like this.
them. Do you want me to answer that or?
Yeah.
So,
So just trying
yeah,
to,
so
just
whenever you
trying to.
program, right? Whenever you program, it's very important to keep your code modular. So even if you say have to print anything way down your file or anything like that, you keep things in a modular fashion, and for that you keep variables, you keep classes, and you keep and functions and everything like that. So it's always a good thing to define the strings in a variable and then use that variable or reference that variable whenever you require. Also, if you see, whenever you say do a project or anything like that, you have multiple files where the variables will span through multiple files. So in that case, you have to use that particular name, and rather than printing the string, you should use the variable. So yeah, that's the reason you should be always, it's always a good practice to use a variable instead of just printing out names there.
Right. And so, for example, as you already mentioned that you have to keep your code modular, and you will need these variables later. So, for example, this is a dependency. For example, I have a dependency, and this is dependent on some Alexa 2.0, and now
2.0 by A.R. Rahman on
Alexa,
Amazon Music.
sorry for that.
Ashwin, we can't hear you.
I
For
went.
help with that question,
Sorry for that, guys. So this happens with me, whenever I'm on a meeting and we talk about Alexa. So this is what usually happens with me if she starts speaking. So yeah. Okay, going forward, I was going to say, if we have a dependency on Alexa 2.0, and tomorrow the dependency changes. So this dependency is used in 100 files, right? This dependency is used in 100 files. So you cannot go ahead and change 2.0 to 2.1 100 times, right? So instead of that, we use a file, we define all the dependencies there, and we just change it at one place, and everywhere else where my code is using this variable dependency, it automatically gets reflected.
Correct.
Okay, got it. Any problem understanding this? This is why we need variables, basically. Okay, so we are moving forward. Yeah, so we also have set and sequence types like list tuples. We'll go there in a while. Moving forward, operators have this approach consumes more memory. Which Ashutosh can take that. Which approach do you mean, by the way?
I don't see the. Okay.
Which approach? No, so variables do take space. So what happens is when you define a variable, let's say I define x is equal to 5, okay? So what happens is there, yeah, we'll go there. So there, whenever we define a variable, say x equal to 5, so what is generally basically happening is this value 5 is being assigned to this value x, and that is why we call it an assignment operator. Okay, so you have a memory, imagine a memory location, uh, or imagine your house. Your house is the memory location, and in your house there is a box which is called x. You take the number 5, you put it in that box called x. So now when you come back, you would see, hey, I kept the x blocks in my house, which is my memory location. I would go there, pick up that box and see the value 5. So this is basically what happens in a computer program. At the backend, what happens is, you have memory addresses listed in a list type of structure, and you have different addresses. You would have seen XAE, the name of Elon Musk's child, if you remember. So that was the name of a memory address. So that's your house. In your house, there's a box which is the variable x. In that memory address, the variable x is kept, and the variable x has a value which is called which is 5 basically. So this is what happens at the back when you're assigning a variable. The variable value 5 is assigned to the variable x. And yeah, so this takes 4 bytes. Strings each character also takes 4 bytes. So if you are using like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, so depending on the number of character, you just have to multiply it by 4 to get the size as Lalu has asked. Yeah. So okay, moving forward. Okay, now we have the set string. So any questions till here? No, right? If you have, just shoot it out in the comments and we'll take it. Yeah, so moving on to the operators. We have different types of operators: arithmetic, relational, logical, bitwise, assignment, identity, and membership. So don't worry about the terms over here. This is very simple concept and I'll be just showing you here. Okay. So for example, you want to add two numbers. So you can say print 2 plus 5. And this should give us 7. Okay. I've commented that out. And if you just change it to 2 plus 6, you will get 8. Okay, now this plus is an operator. It's an arithmetic operator. You can also say 2 minus 6, which is minus 4. You can also say x equal to 4 and y equal to 10. And we just print y minus x. Okay. So a very simple concept here is, let's say, so let's say you have to define, you have to make a straight line using your program, and so the equation of straight line would be what? Y equals mx plus c, right? So you won't have the y already defined here. So so you have y equals m times x plus c. So basically what my point here is, you can use simple mathematical operations and you can do stuff what you do in maths. So this star sign is basically multiplication. This m and this x, these are variables which you have already defined, and this is the c, this is also variable. So if I print y, I get 10.4, and this automatically takes the float value. So this is what Python does for us. So if it would be C or Java or C++, we had to go ahead and define something like float y, but here we know that Python will handle all of that. So we just say y equals mx plus c.
That's the basic thing with Python. Like it did not happen with Python 2, but the Python 3 has this. So for Python 2, if you do a 7 by 5, say, you will get 1 in that case. But when you do in Python 3, when you do a 7 by 5, you get 1.4 value or something like, yeah, correct. So
Yeah.
That's what the major difference is. And the best part is you don't have to declare data types or variables. That's an implicit thing with Python. Yeah, I think you can continue, Ashwin, with the interest of time.
Okay, so yeah, so as already mentioned, plus minus, multiply, divide. This is multiplication is a star, divide is just this. Yeah, we just divided, so you have already seen the division operator. There is floor division, which we will not go into details yet. You can, reach out to me personally if you, for the interest of time. And there is one modulus operator, which I want to talk about. So let me just also quickly show you the floor division. What happens is it gives you the floor value, basically. It's nothing usual. So as Ashutosh mentioned, in Python 2, we got the floor value when we used a single division, but in Python 3, we have to use a floor division for that. Cool. Yeah, next is modulus operator. So what happens when you divide 10 by 5? When you divide 10 by 5, what is the remainder you get? Can you just type it out on the chat, please? Right, 0. So this is what you're going to get here, 0. Had it been 4, we would have got
the remainder.
Right?
Yeah.
Because 4 times 2 is 8, and then you get 2 remainder. So modulus operator basically gives you the remainder. Okay. If you do 100 modulus 9, you would get what?
1, correct.
Right, correct. Cool. Moving forward, if you have any questions, you can shoot it out.
Yeah, please feel free to ask any questions. If you have, you can post it on the Q&A or ask on the chat. Anything is fine.
Okay, moving forward, we have relational operators, which are less than, greater than, equal to, and things like that. So when we have to do comparison, so here x is 4 and c is 10. So we have to check. So for example, just in case we have to check, so we can say if c is greater than x, then we do something. Okay, so we'll go to the if statements, but yeah, this is what basically what is this relational operator is, comparison operator. So both are the same. Less than, this is greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and yeah, this is equality. This is how you check equality. So the difference between equals and double equals. So can anyone just type out on the chat what is the difference between a single equals and a double equals? We'll go there when we study if statements, so don't worry about it yet. We will go there. Assignment and comparisons. Okay, yeah. Right. Single one is the assignment, and the double equality sign is the comparison operator.
I think that's
cool. Okay, going forward, how do you take input and output? So I'm just going to erase all of that. I hope it's clear, and we will be building on these concepts. So yeah. So how do you take input? So suppose I want to ask the user, hey, just give me a value which is your name. Okay. And I'm just going to say print hello and comma name. I would rather name it as the name variable. You could name it X, but that does not seem right from the best practices view. So when we run this, oops, this is not an int. So when we run this, we get this prompt, what is your name? I say my name is Ashwani. And when I run this, sorry, I should have written.
Take an input.
Oops, sorry. Yeah, so right. So what is your name? And did not ask me for anything. So I'm running again and I have to mention Ashwani. So since this is an online compiler, so there are some issues on, going to the next line, but you can do that.
You can take So guys, take
Yeah.
multiple inputs here and anything like that. Use a split function.
Yeah.
Take
So
yeah.
basically it will give out your name, and you can do hello there, how are you doing, name. So yeah, so whatever input you give, you get an output like that. So this is how you get input from user, and this is how you use that input basically. So now if you would want the integer input from user, so you could have done int. So you have to wrap it in an int variable. So you have to typecast it basically, and you can say enter a number, and here you can say 5 times the number is 5 into num, and I'm going to change this to num. Okay. Oh, is it waiting for me? I'm not sure. Okay, this is not running.
I think it's hung or something.
Yeah, I think it's stuck. Cool, we'll go there. So if you have any questions, let me know. We will be moving forward, and this is a very simple concept which we'll obviously learn. Going on to lists. So Python also has something called the list, where you can store values which are like any values you want. So it can be of the same type like it is here. It can be of a different type. For example, you could have written foo bar 1, false, true. It would also work like that. And the indexes start from 0, and in most programming languages, this is very simple concept. But for those who have never done it, it starts from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I have to access foo, I'm going to do a of 0. Which is a is the name of the list, and 0th element is foo. The second element is bars, sorry, and the fifth element is scorch. So yeah, you get the point, right? So let me know if you have any questions on lists. Very simple concept going forward, and we will be building a list also. But yeah, for now, okay. So this works now. So when I do enter a number, and I enter 5, it tells me 5 times the number is 25. Okay. So let me define a list.
That's a keyword, yeah.
Name list. Ashwani, let me say Piyush, let me say Ashutosh. Okay, and now when I print this name list, and just for the sake of it, let me have an integer value in the list, let me have a Boolean value in the list, and let me also have a character in the list.
What do you guys think? Will it throw an error or?
Yeah, so will it throw an error or will it run?
Please, anyone on the chat?
Okay. So yes, it will run, and you get an output as the list. So now suppose, yes, suppose you want the number. So suppose you want the first element in the list. So you're going to say name list of 0, which will give you Ashwani. If you want to type out true, what should I write here? Anyone in the chat fast? I want true. What should I type out? What should be my index?
Correct.
Awesome. Cool. So yeah, you get the point. This is a list. Basically, we use lists to store values, and yes, they can have different data types. We just saw that. So it had an integer, it had a float, for Boolean value, it had a single character. So it really, it can also even have a nested list.
Correct.
So things like 1, 2, 3. So if I just try to print out the name list now, so yeah, you see this? Yeah. Do you see this? 1, 2, 3. So this is also, you can have anything in a list basically. Got it. Cool. Moving forward. What is a tuple? So a tuple like list is used to store values, and the only difference between a list and a tuple is the opening on by the way we define it is the parentheses open and close, and in this case it's the square bracket. In the list we use a square bracket, and in the tuple we use a open and close bracket. So we will also go over the differences, but let me just go and define the list first. Let me just define the tuple. Name tuple is equal to Ashwani. Again, I would say Ashutosh. I'm just going to use the same 5.0. This time I'm using a float value, and I'm using a false value. Okay, so in the first I've printed name list, and here again I will print name tuple. You could name it differently, better than this. Name tuple does not seem a good fit to 5.0 and false, but yeah, for the sake of it, I'm just writing it here. So now we have a list, and now we have a tuple. Now, what is the difference between a list and a tuple? Like, I mean, this seems pretty much the same, right? So for the list also, we can, have it indexed as 0. When we do t of 0, it will also give us foo. T of -1 would give us the last element. So you can also do the same thing in list. So -1 would give this, -2 would give this, -3 would give me this element. -1 would give fifth element, which is Corge, -2 Quark, QUX. Then QUX would be -3, then -4, -5, -6. So things like that. Let me go ahead and have a pointer so that you know where I'm pointing. Yeah, so any thoughts on that?
Correct.
Less memory. What else?
Yeah, guys, apart from the syntactic difference, any semantics or anything like that, not appendable, correct? Basically unmutable kind of.
Yeah, immutable basically. So basically lists are mutable. So what do I mean by mutable? By mutable, I simply mean that they can mutate, and by mutate, I mean they can change. Okay. So as an example, name list of 0 is Ashwani, which you would see printed here. Okay. Now I am just going to say, I'm just going to reassign. So I'm just going to use my assignment operator and say, hey, reassign name list of 0 to something else. Let's say codingpros.in. And once I run this, it will say codingpros.in rather than Ashwani, right? Name list of 0. And if I try to print name list again, you would see that the first value has changed. But now when I try to do the same thing with a tuple, let's say name tuple of 0 equal to, what will happen? Just let me know.
Yeah, guys, what do you think? What happens here?
What will happen? When I press run, what will happen?
Error, yeah.
Okay.
Runtime error.
Yeah. So you will get a runtime error, and you will see that tuple object does not support item assignment, which means they cannot be changed, and which means they are immutable. So yeah, lists are mutable, tuples are immutable. And for the list, when we try to go through each element of the list, it takes time. It is a little time consuming, and iteration is faster in tuple. Why is that the case? We will go over there, but this is what you need to understand. When you try to iterate a list, it is comparatively slower than tuple. And when you try to do operations like insert or delete, list is better in that. And tuple data type is mostly used for accessing the elements, finding the elements in O of 1 time. So if you don't know what O of 1 or how many of you do not know about time and space complexity, just type
Yeah, that's fine,
no.
because that would be a little out of scope of this lecture, but yeah, we can.
Cool, no problem. So in a brief, your time complexity is basically how your program scales with the input size. How much time does it need with the input size? So we will go there if time permits, but for now, it basically means if you are doing an operation on 10 numbers, and if you're trying to do the same operation on 10,000 numbers, so obviously the operation that you're doing on 10,000 numbers would be slower because it will have to go over each element and use that. But in case, so that would be O of n. So just don't worry about it if you don't understand yet, but just know that there is something called time and space complexity, which tells us how much time or space efficient our program is. By space efficient, I mean memory efficient. So yeah, lists consume more memory and tuple consume less memory. So yeah, this is the most basic difference.
I'm giving you a. You can check the bytes memory of. Okay, it did not take, but anyway, that's fine. Yeah, Ashwini, continue.
Yeah. So you can use size of to just check the amount of memory a particular variable or thing is using. So yes, so why do we need tuples? So this is more of a high level thing, but this is more of an advanced concept, but I would just say that it performs a better optimization. So when we need things where we need O of 1 lookup time, when we want to find things quickly, so that time tuple would be more preferred over list, because in list, so suppose I have a list of Ashwani, Ashutosh, Piyush and other few members. So if I want to search for Piyush, I will have to go, consider them as guards. So Ashwani is waiting and I'll ask Ashwani, hey, are you Piyush? I will say, no, I am not Piyush. Then this program will ask Ashutosh, hey, are you Ashutosh? Then he will say, no, I'm not Ashutosh. And then it will go to Piyush and it will say, hey, are you Piyush? Then the Piyush will say, yes, I am Piyush. And that's the amount of time that we would need to go over a list. But in case of tuple, so when you store it as a tuple, we will again put blocks, and in one block I will put Ashwani, one block Ashutosh, and one block Piyush, and the program knows which block to check, just like we do A of 0. Similarly, in tuple, the program uses a hash table to find that out, and it can just, in constant time, it can tell us without asking anyone. It knows that, hey, Piyush is kept here. So it might go a little overhead for those who are just starting, but you don't need to think about it a lot right now. Really don't think about it. So yeah, sets and dictionaries. So basically set, as you would have studied in maths, is a collection of unique elements. So I cannot have duplicates in a set, okay? And the major advantage is that it is highly optimized whether a element is contained in a set or not. Like tuple is also optimized for that, but set also has unique elements which tuple does not necessarily have. So yeah, and I'll go over sets and dictionary. Moving on to dictionary for now. So dictionary is a collection of key and value pair. So for example, if you have ever attended school, you would have heard something of roll number 5, roll number 6. And when your roll number comes, suppose my roll number is 20. And when someone calls out, hey, roll number 20, I know that he's calling me. So I say, hey, yes. So key is the 20 roll number and my value is Ashwani. Because keys cannot be duplicated.
Yeah.
Keys have to be unique. And my name there can be more than one Ashwani and there can be more than one Ashutosh, but they cannot have the same roll number, right? So roll number is the key, and the name, or the value is the value. The name
So
is the
guys,
value.
so a question here is, say for example, in a dictionary you use a tuple, or for a key of a dictionary you use a tuple, or do you use a list? Like, what do you think? What should be used and what should not be used for a key value? As you know, that key needs to be something constant, right? So,
Right.
anyone on the chat? What do we use? A key. Whenever you use a key, it should be a list, or it should be a tuple. Tuple, correct? Any specific reason? Okay, correct. I think smart guys here, so yeah, immutable, correct. So that is a very
Okay.
important point when you
So
like work with dictionaries. Often forget that we don't use lists for keys. Otherwise, it would be an error. So yeah, you can continue.
awesome. So I'm just going to comment this out. So this is how you define a set. So I have taken a set of superheroes because superheroes are unique. They cannot be two Iron Mans, Iron Men. Okay, so Thanos and Iron Man. So these are unordered because you don't have a specific order. In the list, you saw that when we printed out this list, you saw that the way we defined list is how it's printed. Like Ashwini is printed before Ashutosh, and since we have changed Ashwini already, but yeah. So are you working on Internet Explorer prints? Anyway, so going forward, yeah, this is a superhero set. And when you try to add something to the set, you just do superhero set dot add, let's say Hulk, because it's smaller to write. Okay, and now when I print superhero set, it will also give me Hulk. Okay. Okay, and but when I try to add another Iron Man, or let me try to add another Hulk again, I will not be able to do this, and even if I am able to do this, I will only get one Hulk printed. Okay, so if I say Iron Man 1, and you will see the list, the set changing to Iron Man 1, but you would not see any other new Hulk being added. Okay, you saw Iron Man 1, but Hulk is, so basically sets have unique values. Going forward to dictionary, roll number. So this is how we define a dictionary. You have it similar to a set, but there are keys and there are values. So keys can be integer or keys can be string. Yeah. So basically, these are ordered. At the backend, what happens is set uses a hash table and it computes the hash of the keys. So when I added another Iron Man 1, the computation at the back would have given me a different key and it would have stored it in a different index in a hash table at the back. So we will go there we'll go over the overview of that. But yeah, this is basically what happened. Okay. So roll number 2 is, let me say, Anusha. Roll number 3, Ashutosh. Roll number, and yeah, I'm getting an error because I haven't. Okay, roll number 4. Any name? Any name, Ashutosh? Okay, let me say a random name. Okay, so when I try to print the roll number now, so what will happen? Oh, I'm sorry. So now I can see that we also have a set printed and a dictionary printed. Okay, so I'm just going to comment this line out. Okay. Yeah,
Are you
sorry.
there?
No, so sorry about that. So yeah, it went off. Okay, any questions still here?
Guys, come up with questions like if you feel anything you don't understand or anything like that.
Any questions on dictionaries? Okay, no questions. Yeah. So basically what I want to show here is you can use key as an integer value, or you can use it as a string value, or you can use it as a tuple also. Cool. Going forward. So yeah, as I mentioned, this is how you use set. This is how you create dictionaries, and sets and dictionary use something called the hash table at the back, as I've already mentioned. And what happens is they compute something like a table, and that table has indexes from 0 to 16 when it just starts, and we try to compute a mathematical function out of the keys, and we try to bring it down or normalize it to 0 to 16 value and store it somewhere. So that's how the program knows that, hey, this particular value is stored here. The lookup time for this set and dictionary again is O of 1. If you don't understand time and space complexity, please feel free to reach out to me personally. I'll be leaving my contact details, and you can I can help you with that.
Yeah, guys, anything if you don't understand and you need more clarity on, because you have to also see that what limited time we have got. So in the interest of time, we are little fast, but yeah, you can reach out to us.
Yeah, so feel free to message me here or on LinkedIn, and I can help you with that. So basically what happens is we compute a hash code out of this. I want my pointer. Yeah. So we, oops, sorry for the spoiler. We basically have computed the hash of the, we have computed a hash code from this key, and this index is computed by some operation on this hash code. So we have something like 16 and each. So this is basically how a hash map internally works, and a hash map is used in sets, list, dictionaries, and things like that. And lookup time again is O of 1. And I know this is an advanced concept, and if you know this guy, he's Andrew Ng, and there's a very famous.
How many of you know this guy first?
Yeah, do you know this guy first? This is not the end, by the way. We have more.
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, so this is how he motivates people. So he does complex calculus, and at the end, it's very difficult to understand. And he just says, if you don't understand it, don't worry about it. And during the end of the course or the lecture, we try to get we mostly get a hang of it, and we start understanding things. So yeah, don't worry about it yet, because there are a lot of things you have not yet gone through. And just a heads up, you can head on to codingpros.in right now, and you can register for the free Python programming course. It's totally free, no hidden charges, nothing. It will be a live class again by Ashutosh and me, and we'll be like taking you in depth on all the concepts. So moving ahead, where do we use, thanks Vanshika. So where do we use all of it? So if you want to store the steps necessary to cook a chicken, you would store it in a list, because you have to go each step one by one. Latitude, longitude in a tuple, because they cannot be changed. If it's changed, you would want to go to Ladakh, but you would reach somewhere else. Kasol maybe. The other one is the set. You would you would store the passport numbers in a set because they are unique, and the roll numbers obviously the dictionaries. The roll number in a dictionary. So how do we make decisions in Python? So coming on to the meaty stuff, how do we make decisions in Python program or any program in general? So we have something called an if statement and we have something called an else statement. Okay, so when we say, so here we have defined num as 3 and we can say, hey, if my number is greater than or equal to 5, say print greater than 5. I should have also printed greater than or equal to, but for the sake of it, what it's doing. So we have an if statement separated by these colons, and these colons will mostly give out there you have to indent it. We'll go there while we write code, but yeah. So this is elif, which is a shorthand of else if. So what you will do is if num is less than 5 and so and operator again. So if you want to have two conditions, logical and, this is logical and, so both should be true for this to be true. So if num is less than 5 and num is greater than 0, you can print something, you can do anything you want. And so for example, when someone says Alexa lights gets on, so if keyword or if wake word is equal to Alexa, turn on the lights, open the mic, start listening,
Yeah,
things like that.
but that's a kind of a joke because internally everything is AI. So you might have seen a joke
Yeah,
that it's just an else if statement.
this,
So
this was an oversimplified version, but I hope you got the point, right?
correct.
So this is the flow. So if something comes into the if statement, we check if it's true or not. So if this total expression is true, we move forward to the body of if. If it is false, we move to the text expression. If that is true, we move to the body of test expression. Otherwise, we just exit out of it.
it's pretty much same as other languages, but just the elif part you might have noticed that it's a little different. So
Okay, so let me quickly say if num is equal to 5 and if num is greater than or equal to 5, I put a colon, I press enter, it automatically gives this tab indentation here. Okay, and I have to make sure that this is always there because this is how Python
yeah,
checks
scopes
out
in
blocks of
Python,
code.
like any other language, brackets are used for scopes, right? But for Python, indentation is the scope. You have to maintain that so that the program runs properly.
Okay, so I am just going to write out the code and Ashutosh will go on explaining because it's more efficient and more efficient. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so as you see, the variable num, it's assigned 5. Whenever the value, it's pretty much understood that it's greater than equal to 5, we get the print statement here. As you might have written in Java or any other programming language which you might have experience with, you use else if, but you see a syntactical difference here is elif we used in Python. And after which, if that check does not become true, it goes to the else, and then it prints out whatever the left. It's pretty much very simple, but yeah, that's it.
Okay, let's try to run this and see what happens. Oops, sorry, I did a very very common mistake. So in other languages, you would use
Oh,
something like this. So I mostly code in Java, so this is what happens to me sometimes. So in Python, we would use and here. Okay, and let me just comment this out. I don't want this to be printed. Okay, so number is greater than or equal to 5. So again, so if I go and change my number to something like 3, it would say the number is positive and less than 5. Okay, so it's not telling me the number because I have not yet written the logic for that. Otherwise, if I would say something like -6, it would go to this else block. Okay, vice or negative.
yeah.
So pretty much very easy
Any
to understand.
questions here?
Any questions? Let you know. Yeah.
I think we should move on with the interest of time.
Okay, so just try out whether a number is even or odd. You can just try it out on your own. Moving forward, loops. So when you want to repeat something and keep doing something again and again and again, that's when we use loops. Okay, so any example, anyone come up with a very simple example of loops in the chat?
Anyone?
No. Okay, cool, no problem. So for example, what if you have to print the numbers from 1 to 100? You would not go keep okay, very nice, Anjali. So you would not go on writing 1, print 2, print 3, print 4, because we don't have that much time, right? So we want to do that. So basically in loop, what happens is, just like the if condition, we also have a test expression of loop. And when that is true and there is nothing called break, we keep going on to the loop, and then we keep going on again and again with this flow. If this condition is false, we exit the loop. If in between we encounter break, we also exit the loop. Okay. So basically this keeps happening while this particular condition is true. Okay. So in this case, if you see, I have initialized count as 0. And now while my count is 3, I would say count equal to count plus 1, and I would print hello geek. So this would just print hello geek, hello geek, hello geek. And my count will be always change to count equal to 0 to now count is 1, then count is 2, then count is 3, and this will be false and it will break. We'll go over the example, but this is in general what happens. Okay, so let me say for while count is less than 10, I'm going to initialize my count as 0, and while my count is less than 10, I'm going to say print still less. I'm also going to print count, and I'm just going to increment count. Okay, this same statement, count equal to count plus 1, can also be written as plus equal to 1. Okay, and let's see what happens. So when you see 0, still less, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So, and this is my count value. Okay, this is my count value. Yeah. So you get the point, right? While this condition is true, and we make this condition false by incrementing count every time. Okay, this is how we generally work with loops. Moving on to the for loop now. Now, suppose I have a variable n which is equal to 4, and I want to I just print 1 to 100, for example. Okay. So as already mentioned, if I want to print 1 to 10 or 1 to 100, so I would say for I in range 100 or n, print I. So what has just happened is, I take a variable I and I say, hey, while my I is in the range of 0 to 100, so when I don't mention anything here, it means it's starting from 0. I can also say 0 to n, but it doesn't really make any difference. So when I do print I, what will happen? And I want to listen from the people who have not answered. So what will happen? Before I press run, can anyone just tell me while I'm commenting my code?
Come up with answers, guys.
And having water. Okay, so let's press run and see what happens. Right. So this is taking time because this is using my laptop's resources, and I'm going from 0 to 99. So this is how you get, right, how you scale. When you scale things, this is how memory and time comes into picture. So you have to make it fast. Okay, yeah, so it printed 0 to 99 as expected. We have printed I. We could also print I plus 5, and I would just say I'll make the range till 10. Okay, so when I print I plus 5, it will give us 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So I was 0 at first. I goes to 1, I goes to 2, I goes to 3, I goes to 9, and then we are just printing I. So if you have not understood it yet, don't worry, just let me know. Moving on, functions, again an important concept, and we are almost towards the end of it. So we'll just be going over functions, build a small calculator. Question, how did you comment? So I just did control plus / or command plus / if you're using a Mac.
Correct.
Okay. Awesome. So let's go and define a function. So this is how we define a function. We use the def keyword. We use the function name. This name can be anything you want. Then we have an open parentheses, and we use parameters to a function. So suppose Ashutosh is my function, and I say, hey Ashutosh, add 2 numbers. So I assign a particular method to Ashutosh, which is the name of my function, to say, hey, whenever I give you 2 numbers, you're going to return the sum of it. So when I call out Ashutosh 5, 6. So Ashutosh will give an answer.
And I'll give a wrong answer, say 12.
Yeah, I mean, if I have the logic wrong, he will give me a wrong answer, but he can, yeah, I mean, basically, he gives me an answer out of it. So when I say, Ashutosh multiply 3, 2, so he should return an answer, which is 6, okay? So consider a function as a person who is helping you do something, who is carrying out a task for you, okay? So when I say add, and I say 2 parameters, I have told that person, hey, I'm going to give you 2 numbers and as input, and I'm going to do this at runtime, and you don't know the 2 numbers yet, but whenever I do this, you are going to print the sum of those numbers. Okay, so this is my function definition, but if we run, nothing will happen yet. Why? Because I told Ashutosh yesterday night that when I tell him add, he just has to add, but I have not told him add yet. So I will say add 3, 2. Okay. So when I do this, it will give me an answer, which is 5. Okay. So I get 5 here. And instead of printing, Ashutosh can either print it or write it in his notebook, and I can check his notebook later, or he can shout it out loud. He can say, return that answer to me. Okay. So whenever he returns that answer to me, I need to catch that answer. So whenever he throws his notebook to me, I need to catch it. So I would say, sum
Total
in sum equal to something like this. Okay. And then I can print int sum again. So why would I need to return something and things like that? So again, when you go into advanced concepts, there are multiple functions working, and add can never be used as a variable. I mean, now add can be used as a variable because this is a function, right?
Add is a function here.
Add is,
so
yeah. This is not a keyword.
Object of a class or object of anything, and you can call it later. So you can consider just like you have packed a box and you have kept it, and wherever it needs to be called, you just send the name of that box, and from any other file, you can call that function depending upon access specifiers, which will be a little in depth, but yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So if it could have been any other programming language like Java, it could be overloaded, but here what happens is, because of dynamic semantics, everything happens at runtime. since add is already defined, Python will be confused that, is this add a function or is this add a variable? So in other languages, we specifically say that hey, this is a function and this is a float or integer type or a string type variable. But in this case, we are not saying that to Python. So that's what happens basically. So we are just going to say print something like that. And now similarly, so return is clear, right? Yeah, right. So return gives out an answer which you have to store it in a variable. Catch or store it in a variable. Catch would be wrong to say here, but yeah, you get the point. So similarly, I can say subtract xy, return x minus y. So I can use this xy again because I'm only telling Ashutosh that I'm going to give you two numbers and those two numbers can be anything. So basically this is in local scope. If you talk in technical terms or programming terms, this is in local scope, so this can happen. So I would say int diff is equal to subtract 5 2. Okay. Print diff. Okay. Similarly, you just have to write the same thing for multiplication and division. And you have to return x into y. We should use a verb to define a function because add, subtract, divide, we should not say addition, multiplication. Because when others read your code, it's easier that way. Also introducing a concept of try and except here. So I try to return what is the exception? So basically, you would have something called a division by 0 exception. So Ashutosh can find that out while I'm.
You can just use here, right? It's Python 3, so we can, or as in Python 3, you might need as also here if you like to.
Okay, no problem. So simply writing except works. So what used to happen was we also have to define something like the exception, which exception we are throwing. But anyway. Let me say multiplication equal to multiply 5, 3 and div equal to divide 5, 10, 2. Yeah, I'll explain except again. So let me just type this out and I'll go over try and except once more. Okay, so what is happening here is, you know that division by 0 is not defined, right? So now when you try to divide by 0, you will always and without doubt get an exception. So now when you say try and except, what you're trying to do is you're trying to do something. In this case, you're trying to return x and y. In case at runtime you get an error or an exception, it goes to the except block. And I know that the only exception in this case would be division by 0 exception. So in which case I would get division by 0 is not possible. Okay, so let me try to run this and then I will show you what happens when we divide by 0.
And
so when we just do division by 0, this will give me an error which says division by 0 is not possible. So now you would have a question, why did this go up? This went up because this except block got executed before this print statement got executed. Okay.
And why do you think we do this? Like, why do we use try catch exceptions? Any guesses on that? Anyone? But if you input strings 22, I did not get what you're trying to say. Can you please be more specific? Actually, do you understand what everyone is asking?
Yeah, I got it. I got it. So yes, you are right. So if we input string, we have that. Then also it will say division by zero is not possible. That's why we could have handled different exceptions, but I am expecting that my program will get a integer input. I'm assuming that, and if you get a string input, you would have to handle it in a different exception. So yeah, I agree with your point, but in this case, for the sake of a demo,
Yeah,
I'll
and
just
apart from
use
that, you can also use a finally keyword, which you might have
Yeah.
known if you have handled any try catch exceptions earlier. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so I'm having a little trouble connecting to IDE. So, okay, I think it heard me. Okay, so in the meantime, if you have any questions, you can let me know. Functions is clear. Basically, def and function name, and then parameters, even, odd. If x mod 2 equal to 0, then you print even. Basically, if something divided by 0 gives you a remainder of 0, that means it's even, otherwise it's odd. Okay. And then again, so functions are done. Calculator will be building. We are on the way. Yeah, so we have defined these 4 functions. Okay, I think now Purvam is satisfied with this. Division is not possible. You can handle exceptions later. Okay, so my calculator function will take 3 inputs and operator. Okay, x, y, and operator, and I will say, hey, if my and I am just going to say op. If op is equal to plus, I'm going to say add x comma y, and I'm also just going to print the value. Okay. Similarly, if my operator is minus, I'm going to say subtract x comma y. I'm going to say multiply, and here I'm going to say divide. Okay. And let me call the calculator now. I'm going to give it 5, 2, and I'm going to ask it to add. Okay. Any doubts? This does not work yet because this add is a character. Okay. Cool. Any doubts? I'm going to run this. I should comment these out just for the sake of no confusion. And I'll get an error, so I'm also commenting this. Okay, now when I do this, I get 7. Similarly, if I just change plus to minus, I'm going to get 3. Okay. If I change minus to multiplication, how can we specify data type of inputs we are giving into the function? So yeah, Python automatically does that for you. You don't have to give a particular data type. You don't have to specify the
Same.
data type actually. So whatever you give, yeah, whatever you give at runtime, that data type will be taken here, and you have to handle the logic basically. So you can, if you're giving out a string in the function calling, you cannot add this string with a number. I mean, it will be converted to string dynamically if you do that, but you have to handle the logic, and Python
Yeah.
handles the data types
Correct.
for you. Okay, any other questions? I'm just going to say divide. And when I say divide, I have 2.5 as expected. When I say 50 divide, it will give me that division is not possible. Awesome. And it gives me a none value, which is a null value mostly in other languages, but here it gives me a none value. So yeah, so that's what basically how we build a calculator. And now we'll be talking about how do you get into a product-based company and how do you crack the interviews, things like that. So till now, if you have any questions, let me know and we will go forward. I'm sorry to take
I
more
get a
than
question, I
expected
think.
time.
Is there some way we can cue the user about type of inputs our function requires? Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, I think while getting the user from input, we can
Ask.
obviously ask the user to enter a integer value, or we can,
I can, you can either typecast it
type
later
of,
in your logic.
yeah,
Got it.
yeah, we can even check triple equals, which I have not talked about in this session, but we can use triple equals to check if the two objects are same and are integer types or not. We can throw some assertion here right before going forward. Okay, any other questions? Or should I just go ahead with how so how many of you actually want to be a software developer in a good company, in a product-based company? And how many of you, what is your dream company basically, is what I'm trying to ask. Do you have a dream company, or are you all entrepreneurs? Or
I don't.
yeah, Adobe,
Okay.
AMD, cool. Yeah, 5 to 6 more names. Please come up. It's there's nothing wrong, right? Google, Microsoft, nice. IBM,
Okay.
Goldman Sachs, Google, Coding Pros. Okay. Thanks, Piyush. Okay. Anyone else? Cool. Awesome. Get it. So all of these companies require one key skill, that is data structures and algorithms. Okay. So if you have seen Game of Thrones, this meme would be very relatable to you. If you haven't, go watch it. But yeah, the point is, all of these companies like Google, Adobe, IBM, Microsoft, IBM not that much, but it still asks. So all of these companies will focus on data structures and algorithms. So what type of data structures? Arrays, linked list, hash maps, heaps, trees, binary trees, AVL, whatever. I mean, a lot of data structures and algorithms like searching, sorting. These are the two main classes of algorithms that can be extended to different types. And there are other algorithms like dynamic path mapping, things like that. So there are a lot. Kruskal's. There are a lot. So you need to practice all of those questions. And how do you practice? So you don't have to do everything. So if there are around 500 questions lying around on the internet, so do you practice everything? No, you don't practice everything. You have to make a strategy out of it. So you only have to practice 70 to 80 questions that are good enough, and that are the patterns which these companies ask mostly. So some of these patterns I'll be talking about is, there's a two-pointer approach, there's a sliding window approach, there is recursion, and there are other like BFS
Dividing.
approach, DFS approach. So there are a lot of approaches which are out there, but people don't know about it. So a lot of problems, if you see, can just be solved by using a sliding window approach. So one technique will give you an answer for around 100 problems on the internet. Two-pointer approach, again, it will give you a lot of, it will give you the answers to a lot of problems. If you just know the two-pointer approach, you know how to solve this problem. Another, I would call it a weapon for programmers is using hash maps when required. So why do we need hash maps? So basically in interviews, what will happen is you will be given a question and you will probably solve it using the brute force approach. But the problem is the brute force approach, it will not be accepted. So there will be a lot of time when you want to change the complexity from O of n to O of 1 and only the lookup time. And that can change your time complexity from overall O of n squared
guys.
to O of
also
1.
I'll add to this that companies which you are, the names you mentioned here, Adobe, Google, any company like that, mostly what they look for is they get coders. They can get coders who can study algorithms, who can study data structures and everything. But the fact is they need people who can write efficient algorithms, who can write efficient data structures and stuff like that. So for that, you need proper approaches, proper guideline, proper mentorship, and a proper way which you can decide, okay, this is a particular way which we solve a particular question. Because whenever you sit for an interview, it's not what at that time you know, it's like what at that time you display to them. Okay, it's basically about that. Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, even if you have like studied for 4 years and you can't solve that one question, I mean, your interview is gone, you won't be selected. So even if you do 100 questions at the same time, it doesn't make sense. So that's what, if you know, so how many of you know what Pareto Principle is?
Pareto, solid principles, Pareto principles, these are industry standards for programming. So any idea of these, guys?
Okay, I'll just jump into it. So basically what Pareto Principle states is that, for 80% of the outcomes that you get, only the 20% of your effort is required. So, okay, Jishnu. So if you just keep doing 100, so if you just keep putting efforts, it doesn't make sense because it will be only the 20% directed effort that will lead to 80% of the results. So this is what in general is Pareto Principle, that for any result that you want, only the 20% of your effort, efficient effort, is counted or matters. Other 80% mostly goes into doing stuff that are not related or doing things that will not help. So if I keep building a calculator for 10 times, it doesn't make sense, right? So I'm not applying anything new. I'm just doing the same thing again and again. So thinking about a problem in different ways is, I mean, that's important. So again, so just to pitch in here, that's what we do at codingpros.in. We will be taking live sessions where we'll take you through a series of questions, the approach, how to solve them, how to think about a problem, and we'll have one-on-one mentorship on your progress, on how much you are doing, how well you have understood, and where exactly you need to improve. And we'll actually personalize the courses for you. So I know everyone is different. You might have a different level than Ashutosh, or Piyush might have a different level than me, or things like that. So everyone is different, and we need to start from our level. We need a direction where we should go, and we can each problem can only be solved. It's not that each problem can only be solved in one approach. There are so many approaches, but how do you choose the right one? And how in an interview, how do you say that, hey, this is my approach, and how do you talk in the interview?
And that is what I'll also take it up. Like this session, like the Python session we did it here, was mostly to make you understand that even if you know, say, a particular language or anything like that, you need to stand out. So in interviews, let's just be honest, like you are from a college, say, which is not very well known, or might be you from a college which is very well known. You need to stand out from people who have better skills maybe than you, but there are certain things that can make you stand out in that particular interview. For that, you need to know separate things, say software development, full stack, or anything like that, say machine learning, Python machine learning, or Python specific, Java specific machine learning. So all these things, when clubbed together, they form a very strong candidate for an interview. You are judged on your data structures and algorithmic skills, but when these gets added up, any big MNCs like AMD, Adobe, Google gives you that extra edge than any other participant. And that is what we will help you if you join us, or if you take help.
Yeah, I'll just go over the website. So you don't have to do anything. You just have to check out the website. If you like it, you can register for the course. It's free. Most of our courses are free for, yeah, feedback form. I'm not sure about what feedback. I'm not sure about that. So you can talk to maybe Ashwin about that. So yeah, there are certain courses which are free and certain courses which are paid. So you can just go and book the free course or the paid course if you want personal mentorship and things like that. So the prices are, very less from the industry, and will help you with each and everything. And I'll just go over the what will actually help you with. We'll give you live classes. We'll give you 24/7 online doubt resolution. We'll give you mock interviews. We'll take you through a series of interviews on your target company. So suppose you said Google or Microsoft. So we'll cater the process according to that particular company's process, and then you would have a setting as closely as possible. Okay. The next thing would be personalized courses. Obviously, as I mentioned, we will personalize the course for you. You would also have 100% placement assistance, where we build your profile, LinkedIn, GitHub, things like that, and we help you get interviews and help you get placed if you are into placements. So other than that, yeah, we do target setting, as I already mentioned. Since some of you have a dream company, even if you don't have a dream company, we give you a list of companies where you can target and do things like that. And we're always available. You can email us or you can call us directly. So there's courses like Intro to Programming, Data Structure Algorithms, there's Cloud, there's Python for Data Science and Machine Learning, there's Competitive Programming. So you can go check it out. And if you want to have any questions, or if you have any questions in mind on what to choose, you can reach out to us on the same number which we have mentioned, 620414356. I will also mention
Any
it
other
once
question,
again.
guys, from your side at the end of the session? So
Yeah, any other questions?
Ashwin, are you there? Yeah, I see
Yeah, I
that
think he's there.
feedback forms will be shared through the email. So will you be conducting that thing? Because I see Prince has asked for a feedback something.
Yeah, they'll
Okay.
handle that, I think, Ashutosh. So yeah, any questions? I mean, if you have any questions, let us know. We will start. If you want to ask questions anonymously, by the way, you can go to slides. I'll just share this link.
Yeah, good.
Any anonymous questions or anything at all, just type it out here. We won't see who asked it, but yeah, we will get the questions. Space-time complexity. Yes, we will talk about space-time complexity, but I think the time here is not enough. We have already exceeded the allotted time. So what you can do is you can just come up to the data structures and algorithms free course. We can talk. We all will talk about it there. Or if you want, paid course, you can also take that. Yeah, we will talk about time and space later, obviously, but not yet. So sorry for that. Any other questions? I see no questions appearing, so I'm assuming everything is good. If you have
Yeah,
any
guys, you
other
can reach
questions,
out
do let me
to
know.
us on a mail and we'll answer it out. Not a problem. Ashwini, we can't hear you.
So yeah, I said that if you have any other questions, here are our contact details again for the last time, and I think we are good. So yeah.
We missed you again. Ashwini, can't hear you.
Oops, sorry. Yeah, thank you for all of your time and thank you for attending the session. Hope to see you again in the free course of Coding Pros or the paid course, whatever you. But yeah, thank you for coming. And let me know if you have any other doubts. You can reach out to me directly, and we will end the session here. Okay.
Bye, guys.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Bye bye.
Thanks for joining.